The sky. For generations, mankind has dreamed of making himself wings to soar through the sky like a bird. For some, the dream has come true. These are ordinary people who have been inspired to build and fly their own aircraft, known amongst the flying community as Homebuilders. Members of the Sport Aircraft Association of New Zealand, they take to the air on their own wings.
My name's David Wilkinson. I've built and I fly this Vans RV8. The RV is great and it's a very good all-round aircraft. You can cruise at 150 plus knots. You can aerobat it, you can land. I've landed in a friend's farm airstrip under 300 metres long, so it's a very versatile aircraft. My particular one was a quick build kit, an American kit set. I built it over 17 months, which is a fairly short gestation period, but I still put a lot of hours into it, a lot of time. It's fantastic to fly. It's got over 200 horsepower in it, and I really enjoy it. It's like a big Corby Starlet, which I've spent a lot of time flying also. I've done a lot of time in single seat Corby Starlets behind Volkswagens. They're great little aeroplanes, but they have got their limitations in the way of fuel endurance. They're only a single seat. It's nice to be able to take a passenger, especially some of my children every now and again. So that's started looking around, and the Vans RV8 really did tick all the boxes. I looked at the RV7, which is a side-by-side configuration, seating configuration. As soon as I sat in the RV8 with the throttle in the left hand, the stick in the right hand, it felt very natural. It's coming up 3.5 years old. It flew on Friday the 13th of December 2013. A lot of people looked at me sideways when I said I'm going to fly it on Friday the 13th. My reasoning was, well, if it flew right on Friday the 13th, it was going to be good for every other day. So, and that has proven to be the case. I've been involved with the New Zealand Sport Aircraft Association since must be the early 80s, when I was sort of four to 5 years old. My father has been heavily involved and still is. Dad built a Corby Starlet in the early 80s. It first flew in 1982, ZK toy. It's now done 2,500 hours and it's approaching 35 years old. So as a young fella, I sat for hours and hours in the aircraft in the workshop while Dad built it. So I suppose it was inevitable that I was going to become involved in home-built aircraft at some stage. I got my licence when I was 21 years old. I flew the Corby Starlet as a student pilot the day before my 21st birthday, which was a massive buzz. And it's just progressed from there. I think one year, the first year I flew the Corby Starlet, I did 150 hours in it. Dad sort of left it in the hangar at Pikes Point, had a fuel card in it. I had a licence and I thought, oh, what's stopping me? So I just went for it. It was great fun. And since then we brought another Corby Starlet, which we've painted the same, ZK-TNT. So we've got twin Corby Starlets and the RV8. So it's been in association with the SAA for the last 34 to 35 years. My son James, who's now 8 years old, he's really maybe got the flying bug. Whether that's good or bad, I don't know, we'll find out. Pippa, my middle child and eldest daughter, she loves aerobatics, she's absolutely crazy on it. And Emma hides under a blanket in the back until we get airborne. So no, the kids enjoy it. It's nice to be able to share the experience with them. it's great to be able to grab the kids and say, right, let's go to Tauranga for lunch or Pawanui, and it's a bit easier to get a leave pass from home too if I take one of them with me, so that's beneficial. I compete in aerobatics, the national aerobatic competitions, local aerobatic competitions up to sportsman level. I am part of an RV formation team for local air shows and solo aerobatics. It has a smoke system in it which is good for air shows. I've also, one of the biggest thing I'll definitely have done in it, and in my flying career, is last year, 12 months ago, May 2016, my father and I flew it across the Tasman. We spent 3 weeks in total away from New Zealand. The highlight of the trip was probably Lord Howe Island. On the way home we spent a night there, which was an absolutely amazing place. And just the 6 months planning, the paperwork, it was very satisfying going through, planning it and flying the plan without any problems at all. The Australian outback is absolutely huge. We were flying up to 600 miles a day, sort of 4 to 5 hours flying a day, and sometimes the landscape didn't even change. So I'd much rather be doing it in an aircraft than a camper van. It's not an easy exercise, it's doable, but you really need the equipment. You need an aircraft that's capable of it with a fairly decent ground speed or airspeed. So that was a fantastic trip. I've also got another project underway at the moment, which is a DR-107, or one designed by Dan Rinn in California. It's a single-seat, highly aerobatic, plus or minus 10G aircraft. It's an 18-foot wingspan, so it's fairly small. Can't really get much smaller. It'll have over 200 horsepower in it, constant speed propeller. It's a plans built. There's no kit set. I just started with a set of plans, no instructions. So I'm probably, I don't know, 50% through that maybe, with 90% to go. It's the satisfaction of starting something from some steel pipe, and within a few weeks I'll have it on its wheels, be able to roll it outside. So you get to these milestones while you're constructing your aircraft. I enjoy the building and the maintenance side of the sport aircraft just as much as the flying. I get a lot of satisfaction. I know a lot of members do also, out of maintaining their aircraft, building their aircraft and keeping them in a condition where you could hop in it and fly to Norfolk Island tomorrow or fly to the South Island. From what I've seen around Sport Aircraft Association members' aircraft, the quality and the condition that they're kept in is superior to the GA aircraft, the Cessnas that sit outside in the weather all their lives. So I think the sport aircraft members, there's a lot of talent there that is shared between members and is very beneficial.
New Zealanders have long been drawn to the skies. The earliest recorded builder of a heavier-than-air aircraft in New Zealand was Richard Pearce, a farmer from South Canterbury who experimented with aircraft in the early 1900s. Recent claims suggest he may have flown before the Wright brothers. However, the actual date and whether he was successful has been subject to vigorous debate. Most early aviators built their own aircraft, and the first official flight in New Zealand could be considered to be made by a kit-built aircraft. Leo and Vivian Walsh built their Wright Farman biplane, Manurewa, from a kit of raw materials imported from America. A very basic kit, considerable local ingenuity was required. The Walshes stiffened the fabric covering with a varnish made from boiled sago, and this contributed to Manurewa's early demise. After a minor accident, Manurewa was left overnight in a cow paddock. The cows discovered the sago coating and trampled the aircraft into oblivion in their efforts to devour the tasty fabric. After World War I, the Depression limited the public interest in flying. But by the 1930s, popularity was reawakened, and in addition to excellent factory-built aircraft, such as the de Havilland Moth, a number of home-built aircraft appeared. Aircraft such as the Tui Special and the Lincoln Special were based on designs published in popular magazines of the time, and developed a reputation as being excellent performers. The Lincoln Special still exists as New Zealand's oldest surviving home-built aircraft. At the same time, a radical new design from France had also appeared, the Flying Flea. With simple construction but an unusual control system, the Flea sparked a great deal of interest. The government, concerned that hundreds of fleas would overwhelm the aircraft registration system, issued a completely new set of civil registration letters, beginning with ZM instead of ZK. As it turned out, only a handful were ever built in New Zealand, and even fewer actually flew, as a series of fatal accidents overseas showed problems with the handling and control system, leading to the type being banned in many countries. After World War II, aircraft home building was slow to restart, hindered by new restrictive bureaucracy. By the early 1960s, a number of builders were working on small single-seat designs, almost all wooden construction. In 1964, a number of these builders formed the Amateur Aircraft Constructors Association to further develop the sport and to act as advocates against the restrictive legislation of the time. In recognition of the early constructors who had gone before, membership numbers started at 10. More permissive regulations began to appear in the 1990s, and in 1995 the association changed its name to the Sport Aircraft Association of New Zealand to better reflect the broad nature of recreational flying. New designs and kit aircraft have begun appearing, creating an exciting environment for those wishing to build their own aircraft. Annual national fly-ins became established, alternating between the North Island and the South Island. SAA President Bill Sisley explains the role of the organisation.
My name is Bill Sisley and I am the President of the Sport Aircraft Association of New Zealand. The Sport Aircraft Association currently has about 550 members spread right around the country. A lot around the north, of course, where the main population is, but they're spread right down to the south where there is a lot of building going on. The SAA organisation was formed to band people together so they had a common voice for recreational building of aeroplanes. New Zealanders like building lots of things, as we see. There's boats and all sorts of things that people are interested in, but there seems to be a very strong interest in aircraft, dating back a long time, I suppose, in New Zealand history. It's very different building an aeroplane. There's still an aura about a plane compared to other things, and there are many skills to be learned, new technologies that are available, and we are fortunate in New Zealand that we are very free in the way we can approach the building of an aeroplane and finally get it to fly and enjoy it. We're fortunate that the regulations here are fairly liberal for us, and that's through the work that the SAA has done over the years to achieve agreements with the regulator so that you can approach a project, you can dream it and you can build it and you can finally fly it. When building an aeroplane, it's very important that you can share experiences, and fortunately we have a large number of volunteer mentors, people with very, very high levels of experience. Many are engineers themselves, but they also build because the home building of aircraft is different to the building of commercial aircraft. It's very, very easy to gain experience and gain assistance when you really need it. We participate considerably in training to train people so that they are capable of building, capable of maintaining aeroplanes, which is a very important thing and quite different to the building. We also organised various events so that people get together, they can share their experiences and just have fun together. Chapters exist in all the main areas around the country where we have a group of members that are sufficient to be able to get together and share. The chapter movement is very important to us. It's where most of our new members come from. The local chapters have contacts, you meet people, so you encourage someone else who would like to build or is considering to build to join us and join the chapters initially and then join the main body. My experience of building an aeroplane, the whole journey was, I always had an interest in flying, which did help me, But beyond that, I chose an aeroplane to build. I spent a lot of time building it and talking to others, sharing with others what I should do and how I should do it. Finally the day came when it was all finished and ready to fly, and I must say that that was the greatest joy I've experienced in my recreational, my pleasure life. To see the aeroplane fly was just fabulous. Since then, I was trained to maintain the plane, which has also been an experience, very rewarding. I go to the fly-ins that we have and just participate in flying around the country and seeing all the beauty we have in my beautiful little aeroplane.
Today's aircraft builders, like their predecessors, may be found working in unremarkable suburban sheds and garages.
I'm Simon Clark, and this is my wife Sarah, and we're building a Vans RV8. I've always wanted to fly. I got my pilot's license when I turned 30 pretty much. So we've got about 6-7 years of having my pilot's license. So I'd never ever thought I'd build a plane. Maybe when I was a kid I thought maybe I'd build a plane, but that's, you know, what you're like when you're kids. And then I looked at getting my commercial license for a bit, going to ag top dressing, and then, but she liked flying so much as well. Yep. So we decided, well, the chances of actually getting a job these days in the agriculture industry are pretty low compared to what they used to be. And we thought, well, why don't we put the money to my commercial license towards something we can both enjoy? So we looked at buying, and then we thought, oh, we were trying to pay the mortgage on the house, so we thought, we'll start, maybe we could look at building.
The beautiful thing about Homebuilds is the variety. Whether plans built or kit built or quick builds, and the variety out there is quite amazing. Spent about a year or so actually thinking about it, tossing up ideas, and ironically someone mentioned Vans to start with, and we kind of looked at them and thought, oh, didn't really like them at the time, and went through a whole zeniths and all sorts, looking at you know, originally a high wing tricycle. We ended up sort of low wing tail dragger and composite and steel tube and fabric and aluminium. You know, looked at the whole lot and research, went on online forums, and eventually after about a year, I think someone mentioned again the RV8s, and
we'd never actually looked at the RV8s. We'd seen what we'd thought was Vans was they were all just tricycle side by side, until we, and as soon as we saw a picture of an RV8,
we both just went, oh, love it. Once you actually get going into it, and the more you talk to people, it's amazing how much support there is, and it starts making it all seem a bit easier, going, well, there's people locally and around the world that are so supportive that, you know, once you start down this process of building, you get onto a roll with it.
It just becomes amazing. More and more like a hobby, and then it's just like a lifestyle. It's just really cool. At the start, there was a few things where I'd look at the plans, and then I couldn't quite nut out what they were how it was working, even though they're absolutely brilliant plans. And then you'd go online and look up on the forums, and then by comparing them to what you had in front of you and the plans, you could sort of piece it together. The biggest thing at the start was having to convert to the imperial system. Like, I'm so used to the metric system, and, you know, once I didn't even think of that. All the tools turn up and they're all imperial, same as all the bolts and all the hardware and that, and it's suddenly like, oh, I've got a bit of learning to do here. But I've got my head around it slowly. I just have to have my little conversion charts there and work through it. She's really good at the financial side of things. I'm no good, so
I'm spreadsheet expert.
She works all that out, and and I come out, and she helps me do some of the riveting when I need it to be done. Otherwise, I get my brother over if she's away for work and that. But no, it really works good as a. Having her on side with it makes a big help.
I probably haven't helped as much practically as I'd initially hoped, but that's, I think, all the travel with work. But like Simon said, his brother's been fantastic. He comes over and helps out when I'm not around, so.
But it's definitely a team effort, though. It's definitely a team effort.
You don't always have to go out to the shed. There's been aircraft building happening in the lounge room, propellers on the dining room table. There's a tail in the guest bedroom, avionics across the lounge room floor. It's good. You walk into the house, you know there's something aviation related going on. You sort of enter this whole new world. You start meeting new people, bumping into them all the time. And for us now, the social side is part of it as well. To not just to fly by yourself, I mean that's great, but the social events you can go to and the people you get to know as well, that's a great part of it. People motivate other people, people motivated us.
Yeah.
And now we've started this, other people have been motivated, and one of Simon's mates just went solo the other day.
Yeah.
And it's like this sort of, you start the ball rolling and then this whole little group of you.
You sort of help push each other along to keep that enthusiasm going.
Yeah. We are among the younger members, I suppose. It's not a particularly cheap hobby to get into.
But then it can be as cheap and as expensive as you want to make it, really. So I see it carrying on. We just need more people to, like, you know, cheer the enthusiasm around and get people in, because when you've got groups of people like Sports Aircraft Association and having gatherings and that, and you're passing that knowledge on, and everyone's, so then we can pass that knowledge on to the new ones coming through, and so it should keep rolling, hopefully, and keep that good community. I would actually highly recommend it now for someone that I never thought I would build a plane, and like probably the first, after I got the tail, we were all excited and it turned up, and then maybe in the first month or so, as I laid it all out, I suddenly was like,
oh my God,
oh, what have I done, you know, what have I let myself in for? But as you start to get your head around it, it's like, I just can't wait for the weekends now to get home, and even in the evenings, get home from work and have dinner and then just come out and start working on it. It is such a cool hobby.
Perhaps the greatest challenge to the aircraft builder is to design one's own aircraft, much like the early pioneers did.
My name is Bruce Cook. This is the Avian Adventurer, which is an aeroplane which I designed and built myself over a period of around about 11 years. This aeroplane is a lovely thing to fly. It flies it's very docile. It has an incredibly low stall speed of well off the bottom of the clock. It's around about 35 knots in stall. And when it does stall, it's extremely gentle. It's an aeroplane I have a lot of confidence in. It flies beautifully well. It's not a startling performer. It's not great in its rate of climb, and it's not a particularly fast aeroplane, but it's a lovely thing to fly. Has beautiful visibility all around it. And I think the thing is that when I'm flying it as my own aeroplane, it's, hey, this is good. This is something I designed and built myself, and it's that sense of achievement that then comes on top of such a lovely day's flying. It was quite a difficult project at times. The way to think through it would be to consider the project as being a collection of smaller projects. So one day you may be working on door latches or working on an elevator or whatever, and it's the joy that you get with the completion of those. It allows you to keep the project going. At times there were definitely struggles. It wasn't an easy task by any stretch of the imagination. We had a motto for the project and that was, if it was supposed to be easy, everybody would be doing it. We're very fortunate in New Zealand that we have a legislative environment that allows us the ability to design and build our own aeroplanes. In many other countries of the world, you have to submit designs through quite an intensive process. Here, the basic principle is that the owner takes responsibility for ensuring the integrity of the structure. So that can be either demonstrated through calculation or through practical demonstration. It's not a black art, it's not magic, it's not necessarily a pile of physics even. When you realise that a lot of the classic aeroplanes back from the 1930s were designed with people without any particular qualifications. I would say, however, that my background in aircraft engineering was important. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this to everyone, because it's not an easy task. You actually have to know what you're doing. You do have to understand basic aeronautical practice, and that's really important. Flying isn't particularly dangerous, but it is very intolerant of faults and errors. So when you're designing and building your own aeroplane, you have to go into it with the confidence and the competence to ensure that what you're doing has got that level of integrity, that it's not going to be having failures or faults. It was really important to be part of the SAA. I joined the SAA very early on in the piece while working through the project, and I found that it was great to have the knowledge and advice of all the other members to call on. It was also really useful at times where we needed extra people to help, that we could call on guys and they'd drop what they're doing and come around. I remember the time we did the wing load testing where we had to put close on 3.5 tonne of weight onto one wing panel, and we had a pallet load of cement bags, and just put a general call out to the guys on the SAA chapter, and we had about a dozen people come around to shift cement bags for that day, and it was great. It was a great fun time. It actually even took a little bit of stress off what could be quite a stressful and a stressful period while you're sort of worried about what the wing actually does under load. It's something which I get a lot of enjoyment out of. I found when I completed the project that it was actually, we have what you call post-project syndrome, where all of a sudden this thing is missing out of your life. You spent so much time building it and working on it, and now although you've got it now and it's ready to fly, it's you don't have that sort of focus anymore. And so it's actually really important to recognise that's actually quite a stressful sort of thing, is that building an aeroplane is actually an emotional journey. You go through the trials and tribulations, ups and downs, and then it finishes, and then what do you do now? In my case, I have resisted the urge to build another aeroplane, although I do have several design concepts sitting around on the table. But one thing that I have done is got more involved with the Sport Aircraft Association. It's always been the case where I want to put back into the organisation after getting so much out of it. When the aeroplane was finished, or close to being finished, I stood for the National Council and took up a role on that council, and that's been really good, being able to work in the advocacy role for SAA with the Civil Aviation Authority, and then moved from there to take over the portfolio of training administrator. So I look after the SAA's training programs for maintenance approval training for people who've built their own aircraft, so that they can officially and legally maintain the aircraft on an ongoing basis, and for the microlight maintenance course, which is providing the fundamentals of aircraft maintenance as opposed to construction, that we do for a lot of our members, and working on a number of other projects as well, including some practical courses for things like fabric work that's coming up. What I'd like to see is to see us be seen in the community as something that it's more than just building aeroplanes. It's you learn so many life skills and life lessons through the course of doing a project like this. You learn more about yourself than you do about the aeroplane, about how to overcome obstacles, think through problems, work with other people, get a real big picture on life, and it's the life skills which are the important things, which I think the movement of home building aeroplanes can give to the world.
With a huge choice of designs available, builders are no longer limited to conventional fixed-wing aircraft.
My name is Bruce Buddakan, and this thing I'm leaning on is a Rotorway 162F, which is a helicopter which I started to build a long while ago. I used to work in Blenheim, got called to a job in the Marlborough Sounds, and there just happened to be a helicopter that flew out of Picton going in the right direction. And we went out on one of those amazing mornings that you get in the Sounds with the sun coming up and calm as a mill pond. And when we got to the destination, landed in an impossible spot, and that's it. I thought, I've got to do this. It was an interesting challenge to me personally, because I started off thinking, oh yeah, I've started to learn to fly, which is another story in itself. But you know, I can get the helicopter, I can build it, rebuild it as it was going to be really easily, and that's fine. It didn't work, and I learnt a lot about perseverance and working through setbacks and the value of friends and people that I met through the Sports Aviation Association and the flying community generally. Once I got a little bit involved in the association, there is a huge wealth of people who are willing to share their knowledge or point you in the right direction. I can't repeat it too often that you meet invaluable people in the process, and it's been a very good experience. During the winter, went out to the helicopters based at Rangiora, and I went out and thought, oh, I'll just do a few circuits, keep sharp. And it was a beautiful still day, so I actually flew out towards the coast, and it had recently been snowing, and up on the hills behind Amberley there was snow on the hills. I thought, oh, that's fun. And so I went and landed on the beach just because I could, looked at the surf for a few minutes, and went up and landed on the snow behind Amberley, and thought, oh, that was nice. And then I went across to Mount Grey and landed on the top of Mount Grey in the snow just to have a look at the view. Then went back to the Rangiora. It was just an hour's flying, and it was just beautiful. It made it all worthwhile.
A variety of stories, a variety of designs, a variety of techniques. Different aircraft builders sharing a love of flying and of constructing aircraft. Ordinary New Zealanders who have discovered the satisfaction of doing something extraordinary. Supported by the Sport Aircraft Association of New Zealand, they have built their own wings.
If you want to build an aeroplane, join the SAA.